The trader who made $2.4 million last year spent 90% of his time doing absolutely nothing. And that's exactly why he won. You know that itch you get when nothing's happening? When your setup hasn't triggered and you start scanning for anything to trade. Next thing you know, you're in a random position you never planned for, down $300, wondering what the hell just happened. Here's what happened. You forgot that trading is a waiting game. And I don't mean that as some inspirational quote you nod at and forget. I mean it, literally. The actual skill of trading, the thing that separates consistently profitable traders from everyone else, isn't pattern recognition or technical analysis or some secret indicator. It's the ability to sit on your hands and do nothing until the exact right moment. Today, we're going to completely rewire how you think about trading. Because if you've been approaching this like it's an action sport, you've been playing the wrong game entirely. Here's a stat that's going to mess with your head. Professional traders typically have a win rate between 40 and 60%. Let that sink in. The people making millions aren't right most of the time. They're barely right half the time. So what's the difference? They wait for the trades where the potential reward is so much bigger than the risk that they only need to be right 40% of the time to make serious money. Everyone else? They're taking every trade that looks pretty good and wondering why their account keeps shrinking. I talked to a fund manager a few months ago who told me something that stuck with me. He said, "My best trading days are the ones where I don't trade at all." At first, I thought he was being philosophical, but he was being literal. On days when he didn't trade, he didn't lose money. And more importantly, he didn't waste his psychological capital on mediocre setups that would make it harder to pull the trigger on the great ones. Think about that. This guy manages 8 figures, and his best days are when he does nothing. Now let's talk about why this is so hard. Your brain wasn't designed for trading. It was designed to keep you alive on the savannah where doing nothing could get you eaten. Action meant survival. Stillness meant you were prey. Fast forward to today, and you're sitting in front of screens with flashing numbers and moving lines, and that same brain is screaming at you, do something. Because in your brain's ancient wiring, doing nothing feels dangerous. It feels like you're missing out. It feels like you're being lazy. But here's the twist. In trading, doing nothing is often doing something. Not taking a bad trade is just as much a decision as taking a good one. It's an active choice to preserve your capital for when the odds are actually in your favor. Let me ask you something. How many times have you taken a trade, not because it was great, but because you'd been watching the market for 2 hours and felt like you needed something to show for it? You needed to justify sitting there? That's your brain sabotaging you. Because trading isn't a job where you get paid for showing up and putting in hours. You get paid for being right at the exact right moments. All the other moments, you're supposed to be doing nothing. Here's an analogy that changed everything for me. Think about a casino. The casino doesn't chase players. It doesn't care if nobody plays roulette for an hour. It doesn't drop the minimum bet to lure people in. Why? Because the casino knows that if it just waits, eventually people will come. And when they do, the odds are tilted in the casino's favor. That's your model. You're the casino. The market is the player. Your job is to set up favorable odds and then wait for the market to come to you. But most traders do the opposite. They chase the market. They jump into trades that are already halfway done. They force setups that aren't quite there yet. They're playing the role of the gambler, not the house. When you're the gambler, you lose. When you're the house, you just need patience and math on your side. Let's get tactical. There are 3 specific types of waiting that profitable traders master, and chances are you're failing at all 3 of them. First, waiting for your setup. Not something that looks kind of like your setup. Not a setup that would work if the market does what you hope it does. Your actual setup with all the criteria checked off. This means you might watch the market for an entire day and never find it, and that's fine. Because you're not a trader who trades, you're a trader who waits to trade. Second, waiting for confirmation. This is where most people blow it. They see their setup forming and they jump in early because they're afraid of missing it. But confirmation means the market has actually done what you needed it to do, not what you think it's about to do. Getting in before confirmation is gambling. Getting in after confirmation is trading. You're in a good trade. Third, waiting in the trade. It's working. And then it pulls back a little, or it consolidates, or it just sits there doing nothing for 20 minutes. And you get nervous. You think something's wrong. So you close it early and watch it run without you. Learning to sit in a winning trade while it's its thing is just as hard as waiting to get in. Let's clear something up. Patience in trading doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean being lazy. It doesn't mean you're just sitting there hoping for the best. Real patience is aggressive waiting. It's actively watching for your specific criteria. It's having the discipline to say no to hundreds of opportunities so you can say yes to the 5 that actually matter. Think about a sniper. A sniper might wait hours or even days for the right shot, but when that moment comes, there's no hesitation. The patience wasn't passive, it was preparation. Every minute of waiting was part of executing the mission. That's you. You're waiting, but you're not passive. You're calibrating. You're watching how the market moves. You're staying sharp so that when your setup appears, you're ready to execute with zero hesitation. The traders who struggle with patience are usually the ones who think patience means being uncertain or timid, but it's the opposite. True patience comes from absolute certainty about what you're waiting for. When you know exactly what your setup looks like, waiting becomes easy because you're not tempted by things that don't qualify. Here's something nobody talks about enough. Every bad trade you take costs you more than just the money you lose on it. It costs you psychological capital. After a losing trade, you're not in the same headspace. You're either tilted and wanting revenge, or you're scared and doubting yourself. Either way, when a genuinely great setup appears an hour later, you're compromised. You either overtrade to make back what you lost, or you hesitate and miss the trade entirely. It costs you your buying power. If you blow through half your daily risk on mediocre setups, what happens when the perfect setup shows up and you don't have the capital or risk allowance left to take it properly? And it costs you your identity as a disciplined trader. Every time you break your rules, you're training yourself that the rules don't matter. You're literally rewiring your brain to see discipline as optional. So that random trade you took because you were bored, it didn't just cost you $200. It potentially cost you the $1,000 winner you couldn't properly participate in later because you were either out of capital, out of mental bandwidth, or both. One of the most freeing realizations in my trading journey was this. The market isn't going anywhere. There will be another setup. There will be another trading day. There will be another opportunity. When you really internalize this, the fear of missing out starts to dissolve because you're not actually missing out. You're choosing to skip the mediocre opportunity today, so you're fresh and funded for the excellent opportunity tomorrow. I see traders treat every day like it's their last chance. Like if they don't make money today, somehow that's a failure. But trading isn't a daily performance metric. It's a long-term probability game. Some days you trade, some days you don't. Some weeks are hot, some weeks are slow. The traders who last long enough to actually get good are the ones who understand this rhythm. They don't force it. They flow with what the market gives them. Here's a weird paradox. The harder you try to make money trading, the harder it becomes to actually make money. Why? Because trying hard in trading looks like overtrading. It looks like forcing setups. It looks like managing positions too actively. It looks like revenge trading after a loss. All the things that destroy accounts. The best trading often feels like you're not trying that hard. You show up, you watch, you wait. A setup appears that checks all your boxes. You take it. You manage it according to your plan. It either works or it doesn't. Then you go back to waiting. That's it. There's no heroics, no grinding, no forcing, just patience, execution, and repetition. I know this sounds boring. And you know what? It is boring. Great trading is boring. If your trading is exciting, you're probably doing it wrong because excitement in trading usually means you're gambling, not trading. All right, so how do you actually get better at this? Because I can tell you patience is important all day, but if you don't know how to develop it, this is just theory. First, you need to get crystal clear on what you're waiting for. I mean, borderline obsessive clarity. If your setup criteria are vague, then everything looks kind of like your setup, and you'll never have the discipline to wait. But if you know exactly what you're looking for, specific price action, specific context, specific confirmation, then rejecting everything else becomes automatic. Write down your criteria. Make it so specific that a 12-year-old could follow it. Uptrend on daily chart, pull back to moving average, bullish engulfing candle at support, volume increasing, something like that. No ambiguity, no interpretation, just yes or no. Does the market match this or not? Second, track your patience metrics. In your trading journal, don't just track your trades. Track how many times you almost took a trade but didn't. Track how many setups you saw that didn't meet your criteria. Track how long you waited before your winning trades appeared. When you measure patience, you start to see it as a skill you're developing, not just a personality trait you either have or don't. Third, give yourself permission to have non-trading days. Seriously, decide ahead of time that if your setup doesn't appear, you're just not trading. The market doesn't care if you trade today. Your bills don't get paid faster if you force trades. Give yourself the freedom to do nothing and watch how it transforms your psychology. Let me walk you through what this actually looks like in practice. It's Monday morning, you sit down, you review your watch list, you know what you're looking for. Maybe it's breakout pullbacks, maybe it's support bounces. Doesn't matter. You have a plan. 9:30 hits, the market opens. You watch. Nothing qualifies. 10 o'clock, still nothing. 10:30, you see something that's close, but one of your criteria is missing. You don't take it. 11 o'clock, market's choppy. Nothing clean. Most traders would be freaking out by now. They'd feel like they're wasting time. They'd start looking at different setups or different stocks or different time frames, but not you, because you understand the game. 1140. There it is, your setup. All criteria present. You take it without hesitation because you've been waiting for this exact thing. You follow your management plan. The trade works. You make 3 times your risk. 1 trade, 2 hours of waiting, 1 execution. That's the job. And here's the beautiful part. Because you only took the 1 trade that actually qualified, your mental energy is fresh. You're not rattled from earlier losses. You're not trying to make back money. You're just executing your edge. I want to be real with you. Everything I'm telling you makes sense intellectually. You're probably nodding along thinking, yeah, I should be more patient. But here's why it's so hard to actually do. We live in a culture of constant stimulation. Your phone buzzes every few minutes. You can watch any movie instantly. You can order food and have it show up in 30 minutes. Everything in modern life is designed for immediate gratification. And then you come to trading, which is the opposite of that. Trading rewards delayed gratification. It rewards the ability to sit in discomfort. It rewards the ability to do nothing when every fiber of your being wants to do something. That's a massive psychological shift. You're literally fighting against decades of conditioning that says action equals results. But in trading, action often equals losses. Strategic inaction equals results. So don't beat yourself up if this is hard. It's supposed to be hard. That's why most people fail at it. That's why the edge exists. If patience was easy, everyone would do it, and there'd be no edge to capture. Here's where this gets really interesting. Patient trading doesn't just help you avoid losses. It creates a compounding effect that most people never experience because they don't stick with it long enough. When you trade patiently, you only take your best setups. That means your win rate goes up. When your win rate goes up, your confidence increases. When your confidence increases, your execution gets better. When your execution gets better, your results improve. When your results improve, you trust the process more. When you trust the process more, it becomes easier to be patient. It's a virtuous cycle, but it only starts if you can push through the initial discomfort of waiting. The opposite is true for impatient trading. You take marginal setups, your win rate drops, your confidence decreases. You start second-guessing yourself. Your execution suffers. Results get worse. You trust the process less. You become more desperate and impatient. It's a vicious cycle. And the crazy thing is both cycles start with a simple choice. Can you wait for your setup or not? Let's talk about what's actually going through your head when you're waiting. Because this is where the real battle happens. You're watching the market. Nothing qualifies. And your brain starts throwing objections at you. What if I miss this move? Everyone else is trading. Am I being too cautious? Maybe my criteria are too strict? I've been here for an hour and haven't done anything. What if there's no setup today? Every single one of these thoughts is your brain trying to protect you from the discomfort of uncertainty. Because waiting is uncertain. You don't know if a setup will appear. You don't know if the trade will work. You don't know if today will be profitable. But here's the thing. Taking bad trades doesn't resolve that uncertainty. It just trades one discomfort, waiting, for another discomfort, losing money. And losing money is way worse than being bored. The mental game is learning to sit with the uncertainty, to be okay with not knowing, to trust that if you keep showing up and waiting for your edge, the math will work out over time. One of the biggest mistakes I see is traders evaluating their patience on way too short a time frame. They think, I've been patient for 20 minutes and nothing happened. 20 minutes? That's nothing. Patience in trading operates on multiple time frames. There's patience within the day, waiting for your setup to appear. There's patience within the trade, letting it run to your target. There's patience within the week, accepting that some weeks are slow. And there's patience within your development, giving yourself time to actually get good at this. If you're only thinking about patience in terms of minutes or hours, you're missing the bigger picture. The traders who make it are the ones who can be patient across days, weeks, months, and years. They understand this is a long game, and any individual day or trade is almost meaningless in the bigger context. Let me give you a framework that makes patience more practical. I call it setup, trigger, execute. Setup. This is your broad criteria. The market condition you're looking for. Maybe it's a trending market. Maybe it's a specific pattern. This is your filter that says, I'm interested. Trigger. This is your specific entry signal. The exact price action that tells you now is the time. This is what you're waiting for within the setup. It's your confirmation. Execute. This is the mechanical part. You see the trigger, you enter the trade according to your plan. Most traders fail because they skip straight from setup to execute. They see a setup forming and they jump in before the trigger. That's not patience. That's prediction. And prediction is gambling. The trigger is what you're waiting for. The setup just tells you to pay attention. Until that trigger fires, you're in waiting mode, and you stay in waiting mode no matter how good the setup looks, because you're not trading setups, you're trading triggers. Now, I want to address something important. There's a flip side to this. Some traders use being patient as an excuse for never pulling the trigger. They wait, and when their setup finally appears, they freeze. That's not patience. That's fear disguised as patience. Real patience is the ability to wait for the right moment and then execute without hesitation. If you find yourself waiting for your setup, it appears, and you still can't take the trade. That's a different problem. That's an execution problem, not a patience problem. You build this by starting small. If you can't pull the trigger when your setup appears, your position size is probably too big. Scale down until pulling the trigger feels mechanical. Once you're comfortable executing at that size, gradually scale up. But don't confuse the two issues. Patience is waiting for the right setup. Confidence is executing when it appears. You need both. Let's zoom out even further. Patience isn't just a buy-trade tactic. It's a career strategy. Most people approach trading like a sprint. They want to turn 5,000 into 50,000 in 6 months. They want to quit their job by next year. They want fast results. But trading is a marathon. Actually, it's not even a marathon. It's a career. The best traders I know have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. They're not in a hurry because they know the edge compounds over time. When you have this long-term view, weekly results matter less. What matters is consistently executing your process over months and years, and that requires patience at a macro level. You need patience to not blow up your account chasing quick wins, patience to keep learning when you hit plateaus, patience to stick with your strategy even when it goes through inevitable drawdown periods, patience to build your skills before you scale up your size. This is the patience that actually builds wealth. Not the patience to wait for a trade, but the patience to wait for your skill to compound. You need to build systems that support patience. Willpower alone won't cut it. Here's what works. Preparation. Before the market opens, review exactly what you're looking for. Write it down. Commit to only taking trades that match. When you've made this commitment before emotions are involved, it's easier to stick to it. Second, the 5-minute rule. When you think you see a setup, wait 5 minutes before entering. Use that time to check all your criteria. This simple pause filters out probably half of your impulse trades. Third, trade accountability. Keep a log of every trade you almost took but didn't because it didn't meet your criteria. At the end of the week, review how those trades would have done. You'll start to see your patience saving you money, which reinforces the behavior. Fourth, remove the noise. Close your Twitter. Turn off CNBC. Stop watching every tick. The more information you consume, the more your brain thinks it needs to act on that information. Reduce inputs, and you'll naturally reduce impulse actions. Here's what it all comes down to. Trading is one of the few activities where doing less can make you more money. That's completely counterintuitive. In almost every other area of life, more effort equals more results. But trading doesn't work that way. More trades don't equal more profit. More screen time doesn't equal more profit. More analysis doesn't equal more profit. What equals more profit is better trades. And better trades come from patience. You could take 50 trades this month and lose money. Or you could take 5 perfect trades and beat the returns of most hedge funds. The difference isn't in the quantity, it's in the quality. And quality comes from being selective. And being selective requires patience. So here's your new way of thinking about trading. You're not a trader who's waiting to trade. You're a professional waiter who occasionally executes trades. Your job isn't to find things to trade. Your job is to wait for the market to deliver what you're looking for. And when it does, you execute with precision and confidence. This shift in identity changes everything. You stop feeling guilty about not trading. You stop feeling like you need to justify your screen time with activity. You understand that the waiting is the work. The research is clear. The data is clear. The experience of every consistently profitable trader is clear. Patience is the edge. Everything else, the patterns, the indicators, the strategies, those are just the framework. Patience is what makes them actually work. I want you to try something this week. Pick one day and commit to the following. You will only take a trade if every single one of your criteria is met. Not most of them, all of them. And if that means you don't trade that day, that's fine. Just one day. Practice perfect patience for one day. Do you know what will probably happen? One of two things. Either you'll take 1 or 2 excellent trades that work out better than usual, or you'll take no trades at all and you'll preserve your capital. Either way, you win. Because you'll prove to yourself that patience doesn't cost you opportunity. It creates it. Trading is a waiting game. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll start seeing consistent results. Because while everyone else is forcing mediocre trades and slowly bleeding their accounts, you'll be sitting there, waiting, ready to strike when the real opportunity appears. That's your edge. That's what separates you from the crowd. Not your strategy, not your setup, your ability to wait. So the question isn't whether you should be more patient. The question is, are you willing to embrace boredom as a competitive advantage? Because if you are, you've just unlocked the single most important skill in trading.